Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Marco Gervais Show, everybody. It is Wednesday, October 29th, 2025. Thanks for tuning in to today's show to hear all the relevant, groundbreaking news here in America and around the world, the only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Please don't forget to follow the show and share with whomever needs to hear the truth in our push to unwoke America. I thank you, everyone that's been doing that. I appreciate you so much. Let's jump into the best our radio has to offer. Uncensored and ready to go. Yesterday, I was focused mainly on what's happening in America. So today I kind of want to go over what's happening outside of our borders to start things off today, just so we have an idea of what's happening geopolitically in this world of which we live in, of course. And Breitbart has an article today saying that Zelensky tells allies to be prepared to keep funding Ukraine for 2 to 3 more years. Can you imagine that? 2 to 3 more years of this nonsense? We've already spent billions, well over $300 billion in this conflict, of which Ukraine cannot win. But here he is persisting that we continue to fund this war effort, of which there is no positive result for Ukraine. What's going to be the end result? More death, more destruction, more slaughter, more land taken from Russia? Because that's exactly what's happening right now. I mean, does he really want them to go and take Odessa now? I mean, that is a realistic possibility. They've made their way over the Dnieper River now. I mean, this is the end result of this prolonged war of attrition. More land is going to be seized, more land is going to be grabbed, and what's Ukraine going to have left? Is there going to be Ukraine left? That's a big question. I mean, what's going to be the end result of all these men dying? All these men fleeing? There is no country left. How are you going to procreate? How are you going to reproduce the ethnic population? You're not. And I think Zelensky knows this. I think most people know this. Most reasonable people know this. I think President Trump knows this as well. But why are we continuing on this delusion that Ukraine has any chance of winning? That's my question to you. It makes absolutely zero sense to even entertain this idea of a 2 to 3 more year conflict with Russia. But that didn't stop Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, as he has said, emphasizing to other leaders of the European Union, which pay for the weapons for his army, that they must provide financial aid for another 2 to 3 more years. This is insane to me. Who is going to sit this guy down and tell him the reality of the situation? That we're done. If everyone just comes together and says, hey, Vladimir, we're done. It's over. You either sit down with Putin or, hey, whatever he does, it's on you now. Now, in these remarks that come as the European Union works on using foreign Russian assets, which again is not going to work, as I explained to you last week, as a source of funding for the donations of weapon systems and, of course, the armed forces in Ukraine, President Vladimir Zelensky said that his country would need money for years more. Unbelievable. It's like a never-ending slush fund is what he's getting at here. Even if the war ended early, Zelensky said that Ukraine would still need the cash for rebuilding. Otherwise, he said they would spend it on weapons. We simply have no other choice, is what he has stated. Now, this is interesting to me, too, on the rebuilding portion of this, because what are we seeing in Gaza right now? We're seeing a territory that is 85% of it lay in ruins. Who's going to invest in that? Who's going to rebuild that? Well, the same thing goes for Ukraine. In this territory that Vladimir Putin has not wished to take, what are they going to do with that territory that's been destroyed? Who's going to rebuild that? Where are they going to get the funding for that? Well, it's going to come from the usual. Think BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, these big investment firms that are going to come in, buy up the land, and obviously own the land and make a lot of profit off it. That's what it's going to come down to. And I think he knows this too. But who are they going to build for if everyone's fleeing the country? If people are leaving? heading for the Polish border to, again, escape being put on the front lines, which is sure death. Oh, and by the way, they're actually taking men who are elderly now, 60, 70 years old, and they're actually putting them on the front lines. You never heard of a situation like this before. Using women. I mean, it was just ridiculous. Taking children off the streets, 16, 17-year-olds, putting them in the war because they couldn't get anyone to volunteer for the conflict. And again, I don't blame him. Who the hell would? It's a losing situation. Now, in separate remarks, the Ukrainian president said that this was part of sending a message to Russia that it can't hope to win by bankrupting Ukraine. Well, I think they already are, aren't they? Who's going to invest in Ukraine right now? Anybody? I don't think so. He says because its European partners will keep underwriting it, is what he said. And it's very important to send a clear signal. Look, we will finance it. Well, look, we're not going to finance you, though. I mean, when is Trump going to sit down and finally tell this clown, this cokehead, this putz, this failed comedian, this vulgar, whatever you want to call him, who plays the piano with his junk? I mean, this is what we're dealing with here. Dressing around in black-clad high heels. I mean, who are we dealing with here? What kind of degenerate is this guy? And he always wants more. They never thank you, wants more. What happened in the meeting where Trump sat down and said, listen, we're not going to give you any more of this. It's over. Then he backtracks. We start giving him more. Then we're talking about now giving him Tomahawk missiles. Again, preposterous. Ukraine has no chance of winning this conflict. Why are we entertaining this? I don't know, folks. Do we want this war to go on? I mean, we know certain people want this war to go on. Lindsey Graham wants this war to go on. The Warhawks and the neocons want this war to go on. And, of course, the military security industrial complex wants this war to go on. Why not? They're going to make a lot of money off it. They're going to make their $50 billion profits. They give it to their shareholders and the people that invest in them and put it in their pockets. Meanwhile, we have Ukrainians dying to the tune of 1.8 million already dead in this conflict. God knows how many also have fled the country. I mean, Ukraine lie in ruins, essentially. But he goes on to say, to close this out, he says, and look, if Russia does not stop, we will continue to support them. This is what he wants us to tell them. This also shows Russia that there is no point in this war because we will not give up and partners will not give up. Well, the sad reality is if, the EU, which is in most of these countries are in recession too, by the way. United States, we're $38 trillion and counting in debt. That's going to continue to go up just on the interest alone. We've gone through almost $2 trillion this year in national debt increase. When is it time to say enough is enough? We should have never been in this conflict. When do we actually say, it's your turn to sit down for a peace deal? If you don't want to accept peace, hey, you continue to fight Russia on your own nickel and dime. We'll see how that goes for you. You have the Azov Battalion, the Wagner Group. You guys can go and fight Russia all you want. Continue to do that without us. And by the way, let him know that he's not joining NATO. And that's it. That's the end of it. And of course, the EU, the NATO nations, should be sitting down with Vladimir Putin and discussing some type of security cooperation treaty. Because we've greatly overstepped our bounds in terms of what NATO is supposed to do. And I know that Putin understands that. Again, he wants to secure his borders as well. So, unless we have some reasonable people in the government to say, hey, enough's enough, this is over with, we're done, I think what you're going to see is this continue on, sadly enough, especially from the EU nations that are heavily involved in this. So, again, where are they going to get their money from? Where's Merz going to get the money from? Where's Macron or Starmer? Where are they going to get all this money from? Where are they going to get all this weaponry from? They have nothing. I mean, they have nothing to go up against Russia with. This is why this is so comical to me. Enough's enough. Put a fork with it. It's done. It's done. Give Putin his 4 oblasts and Crimea and walk away from it. Be glad that you can even do that. Because Russia has certainly won this conflict, and they're continuing to win this conflict. And if it keeps up, they'll continue to take more land, sadly enough. And again, we don't want war. We don't want bloodshed. We want peace here. We want Russia to work in peace, negotiations with Ukraine so they can live side by side with each other. I don't think anyone should be opposed to that, but this, never forget this. Understand me here. This has been a proxy war from the West to weaken Russia. And sadly, we've underestimated everything that we've done so far because we haven't stopped Russia at all. Their economy is still vibrant, despite what you've heard on Fox News and God knows where else. But this is the truth of the matter here. So only time will tell if we continue this charade that is the war in Ukraine, folks. Only time will tell. Which brings me to my next point, of course. This is at ZeroHedge. It says that Gaza's ceasefire has resumed now after Israeli soldier and over 100 Palestinians were killed on Tuesday. You know, I like that we can just come in and say, hey, we're gonna accept a ceasefire, but then we're gonna go to have battle again and conflict whenever we deem it necessary. What the hell is this about? From day one, Israel didn't accept this ceasefire. And who's held them accountable? Nobody. What has Donald Trump said about it? Nothing. It says here, after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Tuesday instructed the country's military to carry out powerful strikes in Gaza, the IDF followed in a Wednesday morning statement saying that it has resumed the ceasefire in Gaza. So this is what's going to happen. They're going to say, hey, we're in a ceasefire, then they're going to go back to war. Well, we're going to keep the ceasefire. After, we blamed Hamas for this, then we're going bomb some more. Once they got the hostages out, again, the hostages were a big deal. More than people really can understand. Because, again, Israel probably didn't want to kill their hostages. Even though most of the strikes they probably did ended in the result of killing some of these hostages that have been deceased now, that they want back. But now we have the military has now indicated that it has launched a series of significant strikes and dozens of terror targets and terrorists were attacked. The result of Hamas gunmen allegedly opening fire on its troops. Why are they in this area already? They were supposed to have left Gaza. This was part of the deal. They're supposed to be behind a certain line. They're supposed to have evacuated these areas. Why are they in this region? Why are they there? Why is their presence there? That violates the ceasefire already. So we have that they're not bringing in aid anymore. That violates it. They're supposed to have 600 trucks in a day. They're not even doing that anymore. And even when they were doing that, they were only allowing in 150 trucks of aid to come in. Again, violating the ceasefire. They didn't release Marwan Barghouti, right? He was the number one on the list, the prisoner they wanted released. Netanyahu, behind the scenes, after agreeing to everything, and after everyone has accepted, he says, no, we're not going to do that. Well, because he was a positive, independent leader of the Palestinians in Gaza. So Netanyahu just gets to decide what he's going to agree to. I mean, this is what we're seeing right now, folks, just playing out right in front of us. Israel said that during the ground attack by Hamas in Rafah, an Israeli reservist was killed. The slain soldier was named Master Sergeant Yonah Feldbaum, 37, a heavy machinery operator in the Gaza division from the West Bank settlement of Niria. But the question begs, why are they there? Why are they in this region in the first place? They're supposed to have been gone. Right? That's why you saw the Palestinians returning back to where they lived despite it being in complete ruins. But the bombing in central and southern Gaza has continued since this ceasefire took place a little over a couple weeks ago. And now you have Gaza health authorities saying that more than 100 Palestinians have been killed just in the Tuesday strikes alone. Does anybody say anything about that? Does anyone say, hey, you're killing innocent Palestinians that have nothing to do with Hamas? Does anyone say how many Hamas militants they've killed? Because it's only Palestinians they're killing right now. Yep, that's what we're seeing right now. And again, this is going to continue on, folks. I told you before, Netanyahu has never seen a ceasefire he's ever accepted. So don't expect it. And sure enough, what did I see? Day one, breaking the ceasefire. And of course, they used the, unexploded ordnance bombing that took place when they ran over one of them and caused an explosion. And of course, they blamed it on Hamas, even though it was probably a shell that had been sitting there from when they dropped, thousands upon thousands of bombs on them. They say, hey, look, they broke the... There's all these precedents where they can say, hey, look, Hamas broke the ceasefire. Well, they didn't give us back the deceased bodies of the hostages. Now they've broken the ceasefire. It's time to resume the war. You even have Netanyahu's cabinet now. People like Ben Gvir, Smotrich, again saying we give Netanyahu the full support to, again, go right in and continue this conflict because they've got the hostages out now. Then they can just bomb whatever the hell they want. It can get even worse. Again, nobody's checking both sides. Nobody's even overseeing. Who's overseeing this ceasefire? We're supposed to be done with phase 1. Well, hey, phase 1 isn't done yet. Now there's no aid going in. I guess one side can just decide what they're going to do and agree to. And the other side has to, right when Donald Trump says to, has to agree to it and follow through with it. Otherwise, the bombing continues. This is why Putin does not want a ceasefire. He understands this. He sees what's going on. He sees that we don't hold Israel accountable in any situation. And here we go, though. Trump says Israel should hit back after Israel says Hamas violated the ceasefire agreement, but still ultimately called for the ceasefire to hold. So nobody's holding Netanyahu accountable here. And again, you're going to see this continue to carry out. But look how easily we just roll over. Oh, yeah, Israel should hit back. I thought we're supposed to be in a ceasefire. Who's overseeing this? Who's on the ground running this? I thought we were supposed to have people on the ground running this. How come there's no protection of the innocent Palestinians? Nothing, folks, nothing. It was never meant to last. It was never supposed to work. It was throwing caution into the wind. That's all it was. And of course, the ending of the ceasefire was possibly the creation of a Palestinian state, which again, 180 different nations around the world of the UN routinely want and have voted for. Of course, with the United States and Israel always vetoing it. That's why I ask you, do you think Israel's going to give up any land and give it to the Palestinians? By the way, Israel's presence inside Gaza and in the West Bank is a violation of international law. They're not honoring this 1967 borders. So, again, who holds them accountable? Nobody. Nobody holds anybody accountable in this situation. And, the real losers are, again, the innocent citizens of both countries. Obviously, the Palestinians are suffering quite a bit more. But, look, Netanyahu's gotten his country into a 7-front war. You're seeing people flee Israel now because, again, why would they want to live there? When you're trying to go to war with Iran, why would they want to stay for this? When they've got to go in bunkers night after night, day after day. When you're bombing airports, when you're bombing... By the way, they bombed a building. This is what I found from Max Blumenthal. They actually bombed an apartment complex, and underneath it is actually a headquarters for some type of either military or something high up that's located right under it. Now, I thought only Hamas did this. I thought Hamas only was in tunnels under hospitals, schools, these areas, and using the people inside the buildings as human shields. Well, it's actually Israel that is doing it in that situation, too. Where's the outrage for that? Where's the outcry for that? Putting innocent civilians in harm's way. By the way, Fox News' Trey Yingst tried to go and document what had happened at the bombing of this, I think it was an apartment complex. Again, under it would be this headquarters for some type of military operation. And of course, they, move along. Don't want anyone to see this. Yep. Nobody says a word about it. It's crazy to me. Crazy that we live in such chaotic times. I guess I'll say that, folks. We have the innocent slaughter of, well over 67,000 Palestinians now. God knows how many have been killed under this rubble that we don't even know about. And everyone just turns their shoulder. It doesn't really matter. You have one side saying Israel should do whatever it can to defend itself. I think we're a little bit past self-defense, folks. That's the way I think about it. And then you have the other side saying free Palestine, but they don't really give a damn about Palestinians. They could care less. They just don't care. They're just anti-Israel. That's all they are. So the real people, the people like me who want peace for both sides, of course, get drowned out by all the chaotic elements on both sides of this. And I told you before, we should be pro-life with this. We should kill. There shouldn't be something called collateral damage to this extent, where it's been so obvious that the IDF is targeting innocent civilians. And I've gone over the examples for you. You can go back and listen to my shows on them. But the idea that in one day you have 100 innocent people killed during a ceasefire is pretty ridiculous to me. I didn't think it was going to hold. Sadly enough, I turned out to be right, unfortunately. And it will go on. It'll go on here. It'll go on in Iran. It'll continue on in Lebanon, in Syria. And again, the Americans are funding every single step of the way here. We are funding the slaughter of Palestinians inside Gaza. We funded the bombing of the Houthis in Yemen, the bombing in Iraq, the bombings in Syria, in Lebanon, in Iran, in Doha, inside Qatar. We funded every single step of the way. And Trump just says, hey, they broke it. If you think they broke it, go for it. Go for it. Go right in. I thought we were trying to be the peace candidate. Instead, look at we're encouraging more conflict, more war. I don't know, folks. I just, it's pretty awful. Trump added at the end here, it says, if we have to, we'll take out Hamas very easily, and that'll be the end of Hamas. We would rather not. We'd rather make a deal where they're going to behave, and they have to behave. If they don't behave, they get taken out. What about the Israelis that have been killing all these innocent people? Do they lose funding? Do they lose support? Do they lose anything? They can come in whenever the hell they feel like it and kill people, starve people, shut off electricity, water, medical aid. That's fine. So again, it's all violations of international law, folks. It's really quite pathetic when you look at it. And by the way, Israel is now, they're rejecting any type of Turkish presence now inside the Gaza Strip. Gee, I wonder why. And again, it comes in as, heightened inflammatory rhetoric from Turkish President Recep Erdoğan. Yeah, there we go. Yep, they're saying here that he made some comments stating that he called on Allah to destroy and devastate Zionist Israel. And their affairs in combating anti-Semitism minister, Chikli, I believe is how you say his name, pointed out that Erdogan's past statements declare that Jerusalem is a Muslim city and vowing we will not even have a single pebble belonging to Jerusalem to Israel. Israel's supposed to be an international city, by the way. It's not supposed to be controlled by one group of people. There's Christians that have a presence there. There's Jews that have a presence there. Then there's Muslims that have a presence there. By the way, Muslims really can't even, especially if they're from the West Bank, can't even attend any region of Jerusalem, which again is a big problem. Again, I played you Abby Martin's recalling of her time in the West Bank inside Israel. She couldn't even get into Gaza, but she's telling all these stories of what people are telling her and what she had seen when she was there, which is pretty graphic. But why don't they want Turkish presence? He said they will not tolerate a Turkish presence, not on our northern border and not on our southern border. And then the Chikli's remarks against Turkey were reportedly prompted by a report suggesting that Ankara could play a role inside the Gaza peace deal brokered by United States President Trump. Well, who's brokering any type of peace deal here? Who's even trying to protect and uphold the peace? Nobody. It's up to either side to do whatever the hell they please. And that was the biggest problem with this 21-point plan. Israel wasn't involved, and neither was Hamas. That's the problem. So there was no real agreement. You have the Gulf Arab states, and you have President Trump working on behalf to get a plan that they approved of. But you left out two of the biggest factors, Israel and Hamas and Gaza. That's what you left out. So, again, you have the two biggest factors not even involved in this. So how do we know that they agreed every step of the way? What did both sign? Who signs on behalf of Hamas? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. But Trump had praised now Turkey's role in the commitment to the Gaza peace plan just a few days before. Trump had called Erdoğan a really reliable ally after signing the Gaza peace plan. And Trump spoke highly of Erdoğan. And during his visit to Israel last week, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance also spoke highly of Turkey's contributions to the peace plan before saying that Israel would have to agree to a Turkish presence in Gaza. Again, interesting to me. Does Hamas get to say who has presence inside Gaza? Do they get a stance? Who should be in and who should not be? Because I'll bet anyone here $1 million, they don't want Israel anywhere near the Gaza territories. Just thought I'd share that with you. So again, I just find it funny. One side gets what it wants. It can attack. It can not attack. It could claim the other side has broken the ceasefire. And then all of a sudden the war's back on. But here's the thing. Here's why Netanyahu doesn't want Turkey anywhere near Gaza. Because number one, the Turkish army is more powerful. The Turkish army, they're a member of NATO. And do you want NATO getting involved in this conflict on behalf of Turkey? It would be ridiculous for Israel to do that. Cannot carry out the Israel plan. If Turkey is there enforcing peace, a big problem. Of course, his cohorts in this whole situation. So that's it. That's what it comes down to. They don't want a strong presence. They love Hamas because, again, Netanyahu says he can control Hamas. We know this. He's said it multiple times. So this is why he doesn't want a Turkish presence. He wants the Gaza Strip. We've had Smotrich saying that they're going to persist on, that Gaza will become Jewish. You have Ben Gvir saying the same thing. All of them say the same thing. And, of course, there'll be never, ever any purpose to even attempt the Palestinian state. Netanyahu's also said that to Israeli press. Yeah, he says it here in America. Oh, yeah, we agree to the plan. But then he goes back to Israel and says, yeah, we're not making a Palestinian state. It'll never happen. And again, it's in his Likud party's charter. There will never be a Palestinian state. So there you go, folks. Peace in the Middle East? Not yet. Certainly not yet at all. And again, it's only a matter of time before this whole war continues to kick up again in Iran, inside Gaza again, and of course resume a full-on siege. One more thing I wanted to play before we move on. The Israeli influence now on TikTok, among other things. We know that the Israeli government is paying certain types of influencers, I guess is what you call them. I call them shills. But they call themselves influencers. Great. Good for them. Whatever. This exchange took place, though, between a woman named Emily Austin and Anna Kasparian and another woman. And I want you to hear what they have to say here. This is what the state of Israel is doing inside American press. And, of course, with our First Amendment. So understand there are people out there designated to, again, write pro-Israeli things, anti-Palestinian sentiments on social media to shift the narrative away from the way it was turning, largely because TikTok was a free platform. Again, now we know that Larry Ellison of Oracle now runs TikTok, of course. They're going to change the algorithms, and of course, that freedom of speech is now dead on there. Well, take a listen to this. They're absolutely right to call this woman out for this. Again, you're working on behalf of a foreign nation's policy. This is their foreign policy, and they're working on behalf of that inside the United States to gain more leverage within the United States to continue support because they know the support for, again, this war is crashing on both sides, but the support overall for Israel, especially among younger adults, is waning very, very quickly. And they can't have that. Because without the United States, there is no state of Israel. They would not be able to support themselves militarily, financially, economically, without the United States. Take a listen.
taking $7,000 per post. I know I've seen that happen a lot with you, Emily, and you were also at that meeting with influencers. So what's the reality of the situation?
I'll speak on behalf of myself and honestly on behalf of the government a little bit here, the Israeli government. They target influencers who agree with the cause and then recruit us for meetings like what you saw with Bibi for messaging. With that being said, I can safely say the government's not funding any influencer.
With all due respect, I don't think it's completely accurate to say that influencers aren't getting paid, because let me tell you,
by the government?
Wait, they all
taking.
Okay, so you got the gist of it. They're working on behalf of the government. Now, the other woman goes on to say that she herself was approached. She was going to have a trip paid for to go to Israel. Everything would be paid for. And this is how they recruit these people. And again, the same thing happens with many of these, not only politicians, but again, they get a free trip, they get everything paid for, they get money, this and that. But the one thing that's, again, shocking to me is that Emily Austin goes on to say, well, I'm already pro-Israel, why shouldn't I get paid for it? And then one woman says to her, well, are you registered under FARA? Because you're working on behalf of a foreign government. So, you know, that'd be the Foreign Affairs Registration Act. Yeah, they should be. If you're working on behalf of, again, pushing a narrative in the United States because you're pro this country, which, you know, if she wants to be, let her be that. I can give it less than a damn. But is she going to criticize them? Of course not. These people aren't going to criticize Israel. They're getting paid from it. So you have foreign money coming in to influence you, the populace, and you think, wow, I'm getting some great information. This person has been in Israel. Wow, how great. I'm getting the real news. They are shifting the narrative. So you favor the state of Israel. So you don't look at what's happening inside Gaza or Lebanon or what's happening inside the West Bank or what's happening inside Syria or what's happening inside Iran. Nobody's telling you any of this. Again, this is part of their overall plan, folks. So understand that again, this rot runs deep between their ties with the state of Israel, of course, and sadly enough, they're going to probably get away with this in many cases. But we have, we still have, real shows like mine that will tell you the truth. I'm interested in the truth. I'm not interested in one side versus the other. I tell you what's happening. For people that have either been on the ground or talk to people on the ground or collect intelligence from people on the ground, I don't just follow the mainstream narrative here. Yeah, the mainstream media narrative usually isn't the right take anyways, by and large. Certainly not in the Israel-Gaza conflict or what's happening with Israel at all. So I just wanted to bring that up to you. Be careful of who you follow because, you might be following someone who is, bought and paid for. And I think it's pretty obvious if you've been following, again, I've been following people, all of a sudden they're talking about the state of Israel. Israel this, Israel that. I'm like, you've never mentioned Israel once before, and all of a sudden it's like a daily thing. Brandon Tatum's been one of them. Of course, he says he's not been paid for by Israel, so I guess he's just, shilling for free, I suppose. I don't know. But a lot of these people are dead wrong in this assertion of biblical scripture, unfortunately. Again, it's very sad to see lots of Christians falling into this, of course. And they're really neglecting what the Bible actually says. And they're stating that it says something different. They're going through Schofield Bible references versus what the Bible actually states. And again, I'm not going to get into a great bit of detail on that, but my thing to you is read your Bible, understand what things said, understand what things mean. But if you're going to go by the Schofield Reference Bible and just listen to people say, yep, this is what this means. Yep, God left this for the Israelis, not for you. I think you're going to be a little bit mistaken. We should believe in the Word of God, always, over anything else versus what someone is just telling you. So I'll just leave that there. I'll let you figure that out on your own as best you can. All right, this one is very important today. I want to go over this too because this has been another story that's kind of been surfacing up a little bit lately. But here it says Kash Patel shuts down Charlie Kirk foreign intelligence probe. An explosive feud with the Trump's counterterrorism chief. There we go. What's all this about? Why are we doing this? Why are we shutting this down? I mean, again, I don't understand this as well. This should be an ongoing active investigation. Now, we know there's so many things rotting in Denmark in this case. We know that the entire platform Charlie was speaking on has been built over. We know there was never any, police tape up. We don't know anything. We saw that getting taken down moments after it even happened. We don't know the names of everyone that's been there. We don't have any autopsy. We don't have a bullet. But we have this case now, right? With this Tyler Robinson schmuck. Again, he could be innocent for all I know. I don't think he had anything to do with this. That's just my take on it, based on what I've been reading about. But why are we shutting down this investigation? I mean, it's a little over, a month and 20 days now, roughly. But now we have FBI Director Kash Patel crushes efforts by Tulsi Gabbard's closest advisors to see if a foreign power was involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination. The head of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, analyzed FBI files to determine whether Kirk's alleged killer received assistance from a foreign power. We don't even know who his killer is. Nobody's been charged. Now, we can go with it's this Tyler Robinson guy who's dating a dog, or a guy who dresses like a dog, or is mentally ill and thinks he's a dog, or whatever the weird situation was there. Which, again, I'm calling BS on all this. We have no information. We have no video footage. Every video footage you see of this kid, he doesn't have a gun. He doesn't have a gun on the roof. He doesn't have a gun when he's on a random stairwell. Why don't they have a camera footage of him walking on the roof or breaking in to go stand on the roof? We have nothing that places this guy anywhere except for a Dairy Queen at like 6 p.m. that day. Totally fine, totally relaxed, in different clothing. Yet we're told this is the guy. What evidence points that this is the guy? Oh, we had some, Discord conversations that don't exist? Then we had allegedly a handwritten letter that nobody had access to because it was destroyed. So you have no evidence. Then we come to find out Charlie didn't even have an autopsy. They're saying there was no bullet. But the bullet didn't even go through him. I mean, again, a 30-06 is not going to go through somebody. Give me a break. I mean, this just, again, it stinks to high heaven what they're trying to do with this case. But Kent's investigation alarmed Patel, who believed that the counter-terror chief was overstepping by interfering with an ongoing FBI investigation, according to the New York Crimes. Now, Kirk was shot in the throat by here we go, the same high-powered sniper rifle while speaking to students at Utah Valley University on September 10th. And, of course, we have Tyler Robinson, the patsy, 22, was charged with the murder. Again, despite there being no evidence linking him to the gun. And, again, linking him to the bullet that doesn't exist, apparently. There you go. Again, how's this court case going to go? What are we charging him with? Is there anything to charge him with? Is there anything that places him on the roof? To a gun, to the bullet that allegedly hit Charlie. Yeah, we know Charlie was hit with a bullet. Do we know if it even came from the roof? Have there been other suspects that the FBI has been looking at? Do we know any of this? Right off the bat, you had the two little other patsies there on the ground saying, it was me. They get arrested, and then, of course, they're released. And then again, you have this Robinson, right? Then again, he fit all the stereotypical left-wing maniac. He's radicalized. He's dating a dog. He sympathizes with the trans community, all those things. And again, we had a lot of that in the recent shootings that we saw, where the shooter is, writing on the, bullet casings and what have you. So again, it fit the narrative at the time. It's another deranged leftist lunatic who, sympathizes with the LGBTQXYZWTUV minus plus sign group, all that. So it made sense. Okay, this is another one of these. Oh, yeah, it makes sense. And again, you don't ask many questions, so you just go with it. You want to get the person that did this to Charlie, of course, like I do as well. But I want to get the right person that did this. I want to know exactly everything you're charging this guy with. What places this guy on the roof? Do we even know if he was on the roof? Do we even know if he knows how to handle a firearm? We have no idea, any of this. We never see him with a gun. We don't see him with a gun when he's walking in that one picture. Where did that picture come from? Did that picture show him on the roof? I mean, going to the roof? We have no idea. This is the guy. This is the person of interest. Why is he the person of interest? Oh, he looks like the guy who jumped off the roof. The guy on the roof has totally different clothing on. And they're like, oh, well, he changed on the roof. Oh, okay. So he's got a backpack with a towel in it with various different types of clothing. We've seen him in what? 3 different outfits now? He jumps off a roof with a backpack that doesn't have a gun in it. That would definitely be sticking out of the backpack if he had it. And they say he left a screwdriver there. Then he's linked to a towel. And again, a towel, really? So again, I asked the question. He's on the roof. He makes his fatal shot. He takes the gun apart. It's going to take a little bit of time. Okay? Not a terrible amount of time, but it's going to take a little bit amount of time. He's going to place it in his backpack. He's going to change out of the clothes now. Then he's going to scale the roof. Nobody knows he's on the roof, except for the people on the ground who are recording him. Nobody else notices. None of the security notice. None of the security are looking at the tops of the roofs. I would love to see that angle. By the way, that's another thing. You had thousands of people there listening to Charlie. I think it was something around 3,000. All those kids have their phones out. You're telling me no one has their phone pointed towards that building when the fatal shot took place, allegedly, from where the shot took place? And the FBI is now telling people to go and delete their footage and encouraging them to delete their footage and not share their footage? Why would they tell people to do that? Again, it doesn't make any sense unless they're trying to push it on their narrative. Do we know everything about his security detail? Was anyone there possibly involved in this? Again, I'm just asking questions. I'm not saying that it's definitive, but we should be asking questions about this. So now we have a roundtable meeting between Patel, Kent, Gabbard, and Vice President J.D. Vance, White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, and a senior DOJ official held in the White House, where Kent told the administration officials that he was granted access to FBI files by a low-ranking agency official. Well, that wasn't good enough for Kash Patel, was it? So that the Trump administration's officials were now worried that Kent's probe into the foreign interference could provide ammunition. His defense lawyers, who could then argue that more than one suspect was involved in the Kirk murder. And again, I told you, this wasn't done by just a single lone gunman. Someone would have to have helped whoever made this shot. I'll just put it out there. All right. Again, we don't know anything about this Robinson. We don't know anything about his history with guns. We don't know if he owned a gun. We don't know if the gun is his because we don't have a bullet. So now we have the FBI, the DOJ, which have traditionally tightly regulated evidence in active criminal investigations and prosecutions. But now under the direction of Kent, the counterterrorism collected material from other intelligence agencies regarding potential foreign ties to Robinson. And by the way, I told you not too long ago, but right when this is happening, that Robinson's, I believe it was uncle, actually has ties to the Azov battalion inside Ukraine. Again, an odd statement, again, if it's even this Robinson. But it is odd that he has ties to this. Now, the Daily Mail says that, potential ties to Robinson, as well as evaluated any potential foreign funding from individuals associated with the left-wing groups such as Antifa. I never heard anything about him being associated with Antifa. But why would we not want to know this about this guy? Why shouldn't we know this about the groups? Is there anything we can point to on this? We should know about this. We should be told about this. But again, it's not clear if the FBI or the Counterterrorism Center is still investigating whether a foreign power assisted in the murder of Charlie Kirk. Well, Patel went on to say, so the FBI and intelligence community under the direction of President Trump will leave no stone unturned in this investigation of our assassinated friend Charlie Kirk. Then why are you closing this investigation to the possibility that a foreign power can be involved in this? What are you so worried about, Kash? What are you so worried about? Well, I guess we can, have a moment of a sigh of relief here, I suppose. Netanyahu already said that Israel had nothing to do with it, so therefore we have to believe him. Should definitely not look there, I'm sure. He confirmed it right away, right? That wasn't odd or anything. We had nothing to do with this. Just wanted to say that. Said it twice, too. It's awkward. I mean, the guy lies like it's, like he blinks. It's just nonstop. It's universal. And again, I don't know why you would come out right away and say that. Nobody even accused him of anything. I don't think there's any evidence that could even point to that. But we know Charlie's relationship with some Israeli donors was, I guess, tainted in the last few weeks of his life. He seemed to be changing certain positions that he had for Israel. So I think Netanyahu wanted to come out in the very beginning and kind of, I guess, state, that it wasn't war in ties somewhere. Whether it be Ukraine, whether it be Israel, whoever it is, it doesn't matter. If somebody is guilty, they are guilty. But it seems that we are going to keep those stones just right where they are. Yep. That's the way it's going to work on this situation. Sadly enough, we should be looking for justice for Charlie, because nobody in this country should be shot for their ability to speak their mind or change a position for that matter. But isn't it interesting? They love to, I guess. I mean, I guess they just like to cover for certain people. And I'm sure they have more information on this as well, and what this Kent was looking into as well. Woke Mayor Brandon Johnson went on to compare illegal aliens to Civil War-era slaves. This guy is such a dunce. I don't know how he even became mayor. Can anyone figure that out to me? Who elected this idiot? I mean, did they look at the stupidest person and say, you know what? This is our guy, guys. This is our guy. This is woke and broke mentally. I added that last part in there. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson attempted to rebuke a reporter during a press conference on October 24th for using the term illegal aliens when asked about city spending. Brandon Johnson then asserted that we don't have illegal aliens, dismissing the phrase as a science fiction term. Well, actually, genius. It's in our Constitution. It describes a certain group of people that come to this country illegally. Oh, of course, we don't have any borders under the great Brandon Johnson. No. He equated the term illegal aliens to the historical legal term slaves, which, I don't understand that. Used for black people, as if blacks were the only people that were enslaved in this country. This guy is such an idiot. Again, he should be called out every single time he makes a stupid, asinine statement like this. I told you before, there were blacks that were enslaved in this country, yes. Were they the majority? Yes, of course. But there were also whites that were enslaved. There were also Asians that were enslaved. There were also Indians that were enslaved and displaced, of course. The idea that it's, again, white versus black, the term of slavery, is stupid in and of itself. Now, specifically, Johnson questioned the reporter by saying, the legal term for my people were slaves. Do you want me to use that term too? Again, an idiot. A moron. Was Brandon Johnson a slave? No. Okay. Well, if we want to go back and look at history, folks, more whites were put into slavery than any other race in human civilization. Did you know that? Well, now you do. So should everyone refer to themselves as a slave because, millennia ago, people were enslaved? This idiot, this dunce. Now, the mayor described the language as racist and nasty, and insisted on referring to people as undocumented individuals that are human beings. Now, this confrontation took place alongside U.S. Representative Pramila Jayapal, who's a complete waste, who supported Johnson's stance by noting that immigration violations are civil, not criminal offenses. Ooh, actually, morons. Morons, dunces. I went over this last week on the show. Maybe they should have listened in. I don't know. It is a criminal offense as well. So yes, you can be civilly charged and you can be criminally charged if you enter the country illegally. Doesn't matter that it's just a misdemeanor now. It is still a crime under the Constitution if they'd ever take the 10 seconds to read it. Now, separately, on October 15th, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement arrested Radul Bojovic, a sworn police officer inside Chicago suburbs, an area known as Hanover Park, for unlawfully residing in the country. Bojovic, a citizen of Montenegro, had overstayed a tourist visa that expired a decade earlier in 2010. So they gave an illegal alien a firearm, and yet they tell, the citizens of Chicago, you can't purchase firearms. It's one of the most heavily regulated areas in this nation, folks. That'd be like giving an illegal alien a gun inside, Los Angeles and letting him conceal and carry. You tell the people they can't do it. It's ridiculous. How did this happen? How do you not know someone's an illegal alien? But they give him a driver's license too in California. Then he went over to Illinois and became a cop. How did that happen? So the Hanover Park Police Department stated that Bojovic was hired legally in 2023 after passing a required background check. Obviously, they mean nothing then. Background checks mean nothing. You can't even determine if someone is illegal. And what the hell is the vetting process if you can't determine if someone is an illegal alien that has no status in this country? ICE's arrest of Bojovic was part of a targeted enforcement operation in the Chicago area, unrelated to the mayor's recent comments on terminology. You can't make this stuff up, folks. They're actually giving illegal aliens. And by the way, they're doing this in California as well. The once great state of California is also allowing illegal aliens to enforce the laws of your nation. People have no right to be here. They have no jurisdiction here. And they are committing a civil and a criminal offense inside the United States. So maybe, Premier Jayapal, who's from India, can figure that out at some point. Maybe low IQ Brandon Johnson can figure that out at some point. But, like Gavin Newsom, these are his people, folks. He loves the illegal aliens. He loves to hide behind the illegal aliens. This is what he does. By the way, he was just asked this not too long ago, and this is how he responded to this. Take a listen to this.
Johnson, last week I asked you about an illegal alien from Nicaragua who beat a Chicago woman unconscious and raped her on a Chicago sidewalk, and you didn't answer the question. Millions of people shared the video, liked it, commented that you were a coward for not answering the question. Now the Department of Homeland Security has shared the video, racking up additional millions of views on that video.
All right, we need the question, William.
And the Department of Homeland Security
No preamble,
has called
just the
you
question.
a coward.
Just the question. Go ahead.
The Department of Homeland Security has called you a coward for hiding behind 150
right.
police detail, sworn Chicago police officer detail, while you and your wife, Stacy,
William.
are safe. I'll ask you again. If that had been your wife, Stacy, what would you do? Would you allow the ICE to remove this violent offender from the streets of Chicago? Yes or no?
Invoking the name of my wife is out of bounds. If you want to ask that question in another way, I'm happy to answer it. But your intentional provocation to invoke my wife in this situation is apprehensible and reprehensible.
What if that woman who was beaten and raped, what if she was somebody's wife, but who didn't have a 150 sworn police officer detail?
We got it.
What would you say to that woman and her husband today? Do you have anything to say to the victim?
All right, thanks, William.
Do you have anything to say to the victim?
Any individual that commits a crime in this country should be held accountable.
Thanks, William.
Will you turn him over to ICE? Will you suggest that that Nicaraguan illegal alien will be turned over to ICE?
We're going
Thanks,
to Sarah. Thank you for your question.
Back to the budget.
What a coward. What a coward.
There it is. There he is. Nothing there. Nothing there. The mind went blank. The light shut out. There's no remorse there. There's no, yes, we would get this person out of the country. They're here illegally. No, he says we'll hold people accountable. No, they don't. We know they don't. They don't care to hold people accountable. Why do you think we see so many of this recidivism on the streets from these illegal aliens? Because they constantly get released from prison. And again, we see it time and time again. Not just illegal aliens, but other, again, criminals, hardened criminals. I mean, the guy that stabbed that young Ukrainian girl, Irina Zarutka, he had what, 15 felony charges against him? Something ridiculous like that? I mean, again, they let these criminals out so they can continue to do it again. They don't stand up to these people at all. And again, that is apprehensible. That is apprehensible, that he has no spine in this situation. This is the leader of the third largest city in the country. And he wouldn't say if he would deport an illegal alien convicted of murder. Murdering an American citizen inside Chicago. Is this the guy you want representing you? I mean, I think you're pretty crazy if you are. I mean, I can't understand that. Can you? How do you not have a position on that? Again, mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. All right, let's move on to something, I guess, a little bit more positive here. This is the Washington Examiner. Trump says that he's now reached a trade deal with South Korea as he had a great session. The president, Lee Jae-myung. There we go. All right. So, again, Trump is having some great success in Asia right now, it seems like, and he's working on pretty good deals. He's getting a lot of these countries to invest in the United States, which, again, is something positive. But Trump announced on Wednesday that the two countries had made our deal and pretty much finalized it. Had a trip to South Korea. And, again, I like that Trump is doing this. He went on to say that we reached a deal. We went over a lot of different things. We had a great session. And telling the press that there had been dramatic progress in these negotiations. And he's looking to do the same thing with Xi Jinping very, very soon. So, I like method of diplomacy with Trump. I wish he would extend this to these war-torn regions and do the exact same thing. Why does it only work with trade that we can come to an agreement very, very quickly? I like that he's getting people to invest in the United States and work with the United States and relax tariffs with the United States that Trump had placed on Seoul as of recent. But again, creating better trade policies. That's good. But we should be working to get rid of all these tariffs, because all tariff is a tax on you, the consumer. And that, I think, will help ease a lot of the inflation that's nearing 3%, as we saw in the month of September here in the United States, which we desperately need. The Fed is looking to kick down interest rates, which most people tend to like. But again, that's going to weaken the dollar. So be prepared for that coming up very, very soon. Again, if they start, dropping interest rates, you're going to see a lot more money flooding the M1 money supply. And you're going to see, again, inflation begin to go up because the value of the dollar is going to go down. So keep an eye on all of that. One last article I want to go over before we end today's show. Just the news. AG Pam Bondi probes the Biden autopen scandal as House Chairman James Comer demands revocations for the many of these pardons that were put into place. And why not? Joe Biden was a walking corpse inside the White House. I mean, look at him. Didn't know where he was half the time, shaking hands with the Easter Bunny, making up words, all these other things. Ridiculous. Falling down left and right. It was pretty disgraceful, folks. I'd have to say that. But now that we have AG Bondi opening up an inquiry into these former President Joe Biden's use of the autopen, and then promised accountability after James Comer released a bombshell report accusing his administration of covering up and declaring some of the pardons and executive actions done legally invalid. That's what they are. If Joe Biden didn't know anything was happening in this, and again, I wouldn't doubt any of that, you can't deny that, then they're null and void. Those pardons aren't active. So that means Fauci's on the table. I bet he's rolling over right now. A damn Shiftless of California, he's got to be rolling too. A lot of these people that Joe Biden just randomly pardoned, possibly even including his son and his overseas dealings with the family, probably also part of this. But Bondi said on Tuesday she credited with the House Oversight and Accountability Committee's James Comer, the chairman, did for assembling fresh evidence about Biden's mental faculties and, of course, actions in the waning months of his presidency. Bondi went on to say, my team has already initiated a review of the Biden administration's reported use of the autopen for pardons. She said Representative James Comer's new information is extremely helpful in his leadership that is now available on this issue. So we need to look into this, folks. We should know if we should have invoked the 25th Amendment, and if so, why didn't that happen? Why didn't that happen? Well, because, again, they were using Biden. Biden was just the shell of a person. They could just punch in through their agenda. There's nobody home. Yep. The lights on, but nobody's home. Yeah, that was Joe Biden, folks. Oh, one last thing I'll go over quickly. This isn't going to take terribly long, so I'll push it just a little bit longer on this show. Again, this is in the Blaze, and I like this a lot. This is something heartwarming. This is good, something positive that you can look forward to. But it says that Christian Mass as of late. And again, I find that to be very heartwarming. I think it's a good thing that someone of that status is now coming out and saying many of these things. So, nothing is ever just done, folks. I mean, he's been a lifelong, I guess he's been a lifelong atheist most of his life. But again, this is something that's very, very positive. And the fact that we have somebody like this coming out and saying, you know what, I like I like attending church and keeping an open mind. He had a guest on that she herself said that she enjoyed attending Catholic Mass. So, sorry, it wasn't Catholic, Christian Mass. Christian services, I'll say. I don't know if he was going to a Catholic Mass. But again, these things are very positive. These things are very important when we see someone of that status who's held, an atheistic belief for so long to come out and say, you know what, I like going to church. I like hearing the Word of God. I like what it has to offer to me. And, he has such an outreach. And he's not been very quiet about it, too. So, I think it's very good. Obviously, he's been big in the UFC. He's a well-known comedian and actor in Hollywood. And even though he doesn't call himself probably a Christian just yet, he does seem to find himself rubbing shoulders with believers on Sunday mornings. Again, I think that's great. I think that's good that he's keeping an open mind to this. He had on a woman, another podcaster, Frances Foster, who expressed amazement at how much a friend of his could rely on religion as a foundation to get through tough times. Again, Joe Rogan didn't seem surprised by the statement. He said, if you really do believe that, it will definitely help you. So, I mean, again, just something, I guess, like I said, it's something relieving to you as a person to know that your faith is something that is very important, folks. And again, we should be looking at, and again, we're starting to see it time and time again. We're seeing a lot of church services, especially ever since Charlie's death, start to kind of erupt here. So I'm very happy about all that. I like this. I like seeing this. I think it's something positive for this country. We need a Christian revival in this country. And again, I think it's a good thing that you're seeing people starting to attend Christian services more, particularly Catholic services as well. So again, happy to see that. I'm very pleased to see this. And again, I applaud Joe Rogan for, again, being open about this and sharing this with his audience. Again, something that is extremely, extremely important to see. So, that being said, I think I have to leave us here today on that, folks. Folks, I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you will share with some friends, and hope you learned a lot from it as well. And as always, I always try to bring you the best news. Make sure you keep in, stored food, stored water, ammunition, any type of currency, gold, whatever you need to be self-sufficient. Supplements, medicine, because you never know when anything is going to happen in our great economy here that seems to be on a roller coaster ride right now. Folks, enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you tomorrow here, as always, on the next Marco Gerais Show. God bless you.